Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the newest episode of my frickin' podcast where I articulate things. And I'm just gonna have, oh my gosh. Okay. I just want to say firstly, this is Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. It is known as one of the harder games in the world. And there's a reason I'm playing it today, even though it is a nightmare. Essentially, this game, in my mind, is somewhat of a metaphor for my own life, in a sense. And I know that sounds stupid. One moment, let me turn down the quality settings, because it is ridiculously high quality, and it is killing my computer and making it really hard to play. So anyway, oh my gosh. Essentially, this game teaches a very interesting lesson in its gameplay. And that is, this game only takes about 4 minutes to complete, if you're good at it. But it takes weeks or months or years to complete for someone who has no clue how to do it, because it is such a difficult to control game. And the idea is that it's so easy to fall to the bottom. Like, at any point you could completely lose all of your progress and have to start from the very beginning. And in most games that would be awful. And in this game it is awful. But also, Bennett Foddy is talking to me. In most games, having to restart would be awful, but the idea in this game is that it's all about learning the skill of it, because no matter how far you fall, as long as you have the skill to kind of get back up into it, it's just, it's more about the... Mason, help me out here.
It's a good metaphor for life, because it teaches you how to come to terms with what's happened, and you can't change it. You can only learn from it.
That's not a... Kind of. It's more about the fact that the skill of knowledge and skill is more important than the actual progression itself, because it doesn't matter how much money you have or whatever, you're going to be worse off than the person who knows how to make money, essentially. Like, it doesn't matter like, if you both lose all of your money, the person that knows how to make money is going to do a lot better, Jeez. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah.
You want to have the ability to learn from your mistakes more than just keeping what you have, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
Sounds fair.
Yeah.
That's a big ore.
I know, and I'm having a very hard time concentrating.
I can tell.
But anywho, welcome guest Mason to the podcast.
Hi.
Episode 2.
I'm Mason.
Yep.
I'm a friend of Lauren's, and I'm currently here in this place doing a podcast.
I'm gonna kill myself.
So I guess I'm going solo.
Yep. Keep talking.
What would you like me to talk about? What are we here to discuss?
We are here to discuss me as a person.
All right. Anyway.
No, the idea of this podcast is that I'm trying to understand myself, essentially, and kind of learn what I'm about, essentially, from an observer's standpoint. So as an observer of my life, you also have a similarly good way to do so. Oh my gosh.
And you really feel this was the best game for concentration?
It was an example for the thing I was talking about, which is having the skills to do so is more important than the progression itself. Because, listen,
It's not taking away all of your focus?
It's not. Look, it's making me better. As I focus on what I'm trying to say, I actually get better. No joke.
So?
Yeah. Anyway, my point is, sometimes you just gotta feel it out. Anyway, not actually my point. What I was trying to say is essentially that I go through kind of what I'm trying to, I don't have a term for it, but I kind of call it my phoenixing social cycle.
Metamorphosis.
Not necessarily a metamorphosis, but essentially I go through a, what's it called, like an infinite energy machine. I talked about this in Chicago with you, about, like, you know what I'm talking about, with, like,
You're just the Energizer Bunny.
no,
That's what I remember from that conversation.
I'm sure it is, but not
It
helpful.
was a weird day.
Yes, I understand that.
That wasn't Dumpling Day, was it?
It was the light tower thing where we were next to the Trump Tower.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That
that.
was a weird day.
Anyway, so essentially, what I was talking about during that day was that I am a perpetual motion machine, which is
Yeah.
what I was trying to say. Where essentially I have a set of parameters in my behavior that essentially create me to infinitely cycle between being a good person and then becoming self-aware of it and then becoming a worse person because of being so kind of overconfident and whatever it is that being too aware of being good is, and kind of falling to the bottom and losing a lot of things and slowly becoming aware of that and then adjusting my behavior to reflect that, and then I become a better person, and then I become aware of it, and I become a worse person, and it's a perpetual motion machine. And that's kind of the point that I was trying to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember now that.
Yeah. And so it's similar to kind of how a phoenix will, you know, die and be reborn from the ashes kind of thing, where it's...
Sharks never stop moving.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, the better example of this is this game, and the reason that I really wanted to play it this episode is the fact that this game is not about the physical progression of getting higher in the map. It's about getting better at the game, right? It's about learning the skills that it takes to climb the mountain, because you will not make this up on your first try. Like, it's near impossible because of the way that it works. Like, you're going to fall.
You have to learn.
Right. You have to learn from your mistakes, and you will inevitably, just about inevitably, fall to the bottom of the map and have to start from scratch. But you aren't starting from scratch completely, because you have the skills from when you did it the first 100 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this game is all about learning from that. And it's about becoming better and not just becoming successful, because successful is so temporary in this game, right? It takes 3 minutes to beat this game from a professional speedrunner, right? Like, most even speedruns take an hour, right? This game takes 4 minutes because it's all about the progression of the skill and not the progression of...
It's like a lot of arcade games too, in the sense that, like, they rely on lives to kind of reset you. So when you play through a game like Shinobi, you're put through so much, you have to learn the specific placements, and you have to learn how to overcome certain enemies, because you often aren't given the same chance until you come against them again.
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of makes me think of that.
Right, it's really about the way that you deal with your loss and rebuilding yourself.
The way you play Nintendo Power.
What were you saying about taking this seriously, Mason?
I was taking it seriously. I was making a quote from a commercial. It's a very serious thing.
I will admit, I think I'm doing better than I thought I would, but it's still
Mhm.
so infuriating. Like, it feels like I should be better at this, but I'm not. Like, I feel like it should make more sense to me, but it doesn't. Just like real life.
Here we are. Here I am.
I'm at the bottom. Okay, a perfect metaphor for what I was trying to explain.
Now get over it emotionally and get back up and get going.
Exactly. I feel like that's the double entendre that Flippin' Foddy was trying to make with this game.
Yeah, probably.
Because I absolutely love all of his dialogue, and I'm sad that most of the Let's Plays that I've watched of this game just turn him off
Oh yeah.
pretty quickly. because I would love to play through this game and hear what he has to say, because he is like interesting.
He's like a Buddhist monk.
He is. He's like a sadistic Buddhist monk, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that the
versus Zen.
Oh no. Also, the way that the ending is set up is that basically it doesn't want you to stream or record the ending, so it's actually worthwhile for the people who actually make it themselves.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen the ending of it.
Exactly. Because it has such a strong warning about, this is for people who deserve it, right? And I think that Foddy did a great job of kind of making it valuable to work for yourself and not just let other people do it and kind of kind of vicariously enjoy the victory through them.
The age of streaming, people don't really want to play the game. They want to experience the game through someone who they are emotionally attached to.
Exactly.
So he's like, hey, no, go buy the game. Enjoy it for yourself. Have a genuine experience.
And there are plenty of games that even though I enjoy, like Undertale, I love watching people that I enjoy play the game, but I still enjoy playing it myself.
Yeah.
Like some games, like I don't know, like Tetris, are purely like you. It's really hard to enjoy that game vicariously, but it's not an experience in the same way that, like I don't know, like Life is Strange or like a Telltale game is an experience. Like those are purely like that's probably the reason they went out of business is because it's so easy to just experience it through someone else playing it.
It's an emotional thing because, I mean, Tetris as an example, everyone's gonna get a generally similar emotion from doing a puzzle.
Right.
So when you have something that has weight and meaning and definition, and you're like, oh wow, I'm a better person because this inspired me in some way. Getting that experience through someone else's eyes, as well as your own, it's kind of like, why do I need to play it now? I've experienced it.
Right. I don't know.
My issue is streaming and so on.
One of the most interesting things to me is, firstly, I love watching and playing Minecraft. Like somehow doing one makes the other more enjoyable.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Don't play dumb with me. Like having a game.
I'm dumb with you.
I know what you're doing. But anyway, that like
get you to explain what you mean because I don't totally get it.
Like the fact that I am enjoying watching someone else get better at it, like it makes me want to do it, right? And playing it is like I understand this other person's experience more. Like it they match each other, and I think it's one of the reasons. Like there's so many reasons why Minecraft is a masterpiece, obviously, but like I think that's one of them, and. I just realized that kind of the whole thing that I was saying about like getting over it and Bennett Foddy, the game is about skill more than progress, and that's the basic idea of most roguelikes, right?
Oh yeah, I love a lot of those.
Right, games that challenge your skill and less of your just ability to get through a game, essentially.
One go at it.
Right.
Don't squander it. Get what you can from it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite genres.
This is gonna be the worst podcast.
I've played a lot of Rogue Legacy. That was one of my favorites, and then there was a few others. There was a first-person one I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it for the life of me though, but it's an enjoyable genre. And there's some goofy '90s computer ones that are pretty fun.
Also, by the way, the circle is not where your mouse is. It actually depends on where the hammer is. So you can move the mouse really far, and the circle's only going to go so far. Like, it stays with the hammer. And so it makes it a lot worse to try to control, because you can't control like you would a mouse.
Kind of like the controls in Surgeon Simulator.
Sergeant Simulator?
Yeah. Did you ever play that?
No.
It's kind of like it's almost there, but not quite. So it kind of like makes it more difficult to control.
Interesting.
It's a fun one.
Also, I think getting back to Minecraft, I think it's kind of a mix between a roguelike and a progression based.
Oh, it gives you that option.
No, not just like hardcore. I mean like just the way that the death system works and the all of these different things. It kind of, I think it gives you the sensation of both.
Well, by definition, I think it is a roguelike open world.
Well, roguelike and open world are two very different
I know.
parts of games.
No, those are the primary aspects of
Right, yeah. And it kind of the like it has most things. Like it has action and it has the serenity of the music and the peacefulness, and it has
It's a dang good soundtrack.
I've just been listening to the soundtrack recently.
The guy was C14.
Yeah,
Beautiful pianist.
I know. And by the way, the thumbnail for my first the first episode of the podcast is a reference to how one of the disc, I think that's called C14, has, if you visualize it, it makes a creeper face. And I love it. Like it's such nice attention to detail. But like, I think intentional or not, Minecraft just nailed so many different aspects of games.
Instant classic.
I know. And like it's still living on, and I think it will, it's the world's biggest game after 10 years. The most sold game.
Well, I think it's this generation's Mario or Sonic or something.
Right,
like that.
exactly. Like it's that iconic, and I hope I'm glad the cringiness went away after Fortnite kind of replaced it in that slot.
Sometimes it's still pretty prevalent, but
Well, sure, but
it's become a lot more generally accepted due
Exactly.
to like internet culture and certain higher people playing it again.
right, because most of the kids who played it are now young adults, right? Like they are
In their 20s and stuff.
exactly like it came out 10 years ago, which means all the 10-year-olds that were cringy kids are now 20-year-olds.
What up?
Right, exactly. That's my point. Like that it is finally aged to the point where the generation who appreciated it most are now the most kind of prevalent group for what is popular, I suppose,
Yeah, it's always interesting to see something get to that 10-year mark and see if it still holds, which always gets me interested because I remember the 25th anniversary of one of my favorite games, and like it was, I think the Zelda 25th anniversary is around the time Skyward Sword came around.
Oh yeah?
And then everyone's like, oh yeah, Zelda's 25, this is a real thing, super exciting. And then you got to really see how the fan base changed when Skyward Sword came around, because there were people that loved it because they love Zelda, people that hated it because it was a bad game, and so on. So I'm really interested to see where Minecraft will be on its 25th anniversary and see who's playing it and why they're playing it.
I'm really worried about Microsoft. They've been doing a lot of weird. They added bees.
And bees?
Bees.
Oh.
You didn't know they added bees?
No, I haven't played the game seriously in a long time.
They added bees apparently.
I like bees. They do a lot good for us in the real world.
Oh yeah, there's been a big movement for saving the bees.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah.
A friend of ours is a beekeeper.
The Bee Movie.
And her field of bees one day just kind of vanished, and
Well, that
there's a
sucks.
serious bee epidemic.
Someone's stealing all the bees. No, that's what the Bee Movie was about.
Yeah,
dude.
no.
Jerry Seinfeld was ahead of his time.
The Bee Movie, in a weird way, is oddly genuine. Now, like it's relevant again, which is a funny thing. You're really struggling with this.
I need to drink some more coffee. I need more shaking.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Give me the shakes, boss. But yeah, no.
Anyway,
Save
we're
the
very
bees.
off topic.
I feel the bees are a good topic.
They're a good topic, but they're off topic.
It's a topic I care about.
I know it is, but that's not what matters. We don't care what you can care about.
All right. Well, I've been your guest, Mason, and I'm heading out the door.
Dagnabbit. Anywho, Minecraft is a masterpiece.
So you won't talk about bees, but you'll talk about bees in Minecraft.
Yes, I will. I will rave about this game until the day I die.
Their 48 pixel count. Oh. Anyway.
Did I tell you for like the first 2 years that the game was out, I hated it? Like
I think we've
like
had this conversation.
probably.
Because I remember back whenever I found out about it. I was like, oh, this game is stupid and gross. And
Right, exactly.
it's associated with these weird old dudes on YouTube that are like strange British not comedians that are just I'm a dwarf and I'm digging a hole. And it's like that was my first one of my first exposures.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, this is weird. I don't get this.
I think probably my first celebrity impression with it was Tobuscus.
Yeah. Well,
And
yeah.
Do you like my sword and all that?
Uh-huh.
Like, that was kind of.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
I respected his enjoyment of it, I suppose. Like,
I'll never forget his little musical stint.
oh, I
Where
was
it's like the Biscuit song.
that dude. That,
That was a-
no,
that was a
don't bring that.
jam.
It gets stuck in my head still sometimes.
I am waking nightmares.
It's my
She's
waking
like, "No,
nightmares.
bitch."
Can I just do this?
Try. Ooh.
Yeah, that was my solution all along. I have to drag
You've
it towards
learned.
myself.
Now you know what to do next time.
Next time I fail. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna fail and it's just gonna feel even worse.
That man's sunburned.
He is. Okay, there's nothing over here. I'm dumb.
So what's
I
our
should have
next-
watched more playthroughs of
What's
it.
our next topic?
Our next topic is the next one on the piece of paper. You can look at the piece of paper. Just pick a random one, and
Pick a random one.
I'll tell you what it's about.
I mean, can we talk about crying attempts?
Yes,
All right.
if you want to.
I don't know what that means. So what's crying attempts?
Okay, so essentially, what crying attempts means. Also, they're kind of like together for a reason.
Uh-huh.
So I probably shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
But anyway,
Tell me anyway.
I'm gonna tell you anyway, out of context. Anywho, I've kind of realized since I've kind of gone through all of the emotional stuff with my relationship and my breakup
Mm-hmm.
that I have been a lot more physically emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will get shivers when listening to a song, or I will occasionally cry about something, and this has interested me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been seeing if I can I have successfully actually gotten myself to get into that state where I fully kind of experience the music more, and I can get myself to get a lot of goosebumps or to get really teary.
Oh, I got an album for you, man.
It's not gonna work. It's
made me cry. I've cried over one album, and this was it.
It's not like that though. It's more about like my experience with the song that kind of does it for me, or just the way that the music sounds. That is very specific to me. Like, it can't be just like a sad song that gets to me.
Oh no, there's so many layers to why it's upsetting.
Is it the Death Wife one?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one called Soria Moria, and talks about like the physical and emotional detachment because his wife has cancer,
Right.
and so there's the bit where he's talking about just like self-discovery while his wife is in a room with jaundice, essentially, and it's just
Right.
like horribly, and then like the instrumentation does these really it's almost like orchestrated,
Right.
but it's solely guitars and some other instruments, and he uses like atmospheric noise to create moods, which I think out of all the musicians I've listened to in the past
Oh yeah, you're
couple
very
years,
mood heavy.
he does atmosphere
Right.
beyond levels that I've ever heard before.
I would say that is the main thing for both of us that kind of connect us to music, but they're different things. Mine is the way that the music is structured, like on the sheet paper, essentially.
Mine's very
like
feelings based.
exactly, like
Atmosphere.
it's all atmosphere, and it's just the different ways that we experience music, and apparently the different ways that it makes us, get goosebumps or can cry about something, and that was just really fascinating to me. So I've been trying to, I tried to make a playlist before I kind of realized the way that music gets me. I made a playlist of all of the songs that I thought I had that connection to, and I could get that. And then I realized essentially that look at this progress. Yeah. Anyway, you can tell that I'm getting worse as soon as I start focusing on the game too much. Which is another thing I want to study in the future. Emotions. That there are songs that I get invested in that I haven't heard in a while. Like it's almost nostalgic when I listen to them.
There's a song called 2 Weeks by Grizzly Bear.
Mhm.
I have a fond memory of listening to it in the place I used to live. And I hadn't heard it for maybe a year and a half.
Right.
And I was on Spotify, and for some unknown reason, it came up, and I was just in the dining room, sitting at the table, writing on some papers, and it's just like, wow, I can't handle this. It's a very happy song, very beautifully done,
Right.
and it broke me up, and I was like, I remember this little period of my life where I was running around and doing
Shut up,
things with
Vladi.
certain people, you know, experiencing a new life in the situation where I was at. It's kind of a strange thing how that works, which is pretty normal.
Right.
I mean, there's people.
Yeah, it's just
That are-
those experiences that kind of
It's not uncommon.
right that just tie to a song, and it's just powerful, right? And I've been essentially trying to tap into that power because it's very interesting to me.
Give me the source.
I am farming it for all it's worth, essentially.
You're selling. Have you seen how people sell homemade salt out of their tears?
I haven't, but that's hilarious. I'm gonna do that. That's
Yeah, it's a
my
new
business
business.
plan. That's why I'm.
New
Okay,
business.
we're restarting the podcast. I have to give a new answer to that question. I'm selling my tear salt. The finest salt, really.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine. You know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna die playing this game.
Yeah.
Maybe we should swap over to
Yeah.
Tetris.
You want to choose something more like less involved, so we can discuss things.
Let
with
me
minimal
give a
weight.
little bit more progress because I've been enjoying kind of just like
So is that it for crying attempts, though? You're
yeah,
just trying to-
essentially
you're
I've
just trying to find what
Right, I've
emotionally resonates with you.
exactly and there have been a few times like recently I was driving on the way home and I got to a point where I could like my eyes just got so swelly and watery that I was having a hard time seeing the road, so I had to stop myself. But yeah, I've been kind of getting on with that, and I think it's an interesting experiment, essentially, trying to find songs that resonate with me.
Yeah.
Like
The-
Something is super powerful to me,
The Beatles song.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
right? Like that
yeah.
song is the most consistent to me
There's,
for getting goosebumps. If I listen to it in a certain mindset,
Mm-hmm.
it's just crazy.
Crazy for Loving You by Slowdive. There's a demo of the song that I listened to a lot. Whenever I was in an emotional state, and every time I hear that song again, I'm just like,
Right.
it's a wave. But it's one of my favorite songs, so I listen to it often enough where it doesn't always have that connection. But there'll be certain atmospheres that are created. Like I'll be on my way home and it'll come on, and
Right, because it's really easy to just kind of tune it out and just kind of listen to it passively, and that's kind of that's what I've been trying to avoid with this experiment,
Yeah.
essentially.
being in relationships changes your emotional
Yeah,
attachment to stuff.
that was the craziest
Yeah.
thing to me, which is why I found it so interesting, is that I had that new connection to my emotions that I had never really. My gosh.
Yeah, I would never
Bro.
listen to Ed Sheeran on my own time, but you know, my relationship with my brother, it's not even like a romantic relationship, but just certain relationships.
I would hope.
But just like
No, I get what
overall
you're saying. I get what you're saying.
relationships as a whole, you know, like there's that Charlie Puth song, I hate, but since I spent that month in South Carolina with my brother,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, oh, you know,
Right.
I have to listen to this since it's here, and it just makes me think of that moment. So, and then
Yeah, it's a crazy thing.
emotions.
Also, look at this progress.
We've already talked about Allergic to X, or was that in our own time?
That was in our own time.
Okay, we'll skip that for a bit then.
Okay.
Nothing to Lose.
Oh yeah.
That sounds heavy.
It is, but I'm
Do you wanna
probably
wait-
not
do you
going.
wanna wait to come to that?
I'm going to probably cover that in another episode when I don't have two lists of things to talk about.
Should I choose from page
But
one?
I will tell you what I'll tell you in a way that you'll understand what that means.
Give me a little tease.
I will. I'm not going to talk about Refusal for a while.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I didn't see that on here. Where was that?
that's what that is.
That's a dangerous. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous one.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to cover that until it's a little bit more in the past, essentially,
Okay.
because it's still a little bit too fresh.
What's Plan Z? That's a early on one.
That's another dark one.
Ooh. Do you want to switch over to Tetris and talk about Plan Z?
We can. I mean,
It's high on the list.
It's not a height thing.
Oh. As it just as it came mentally.
Yeah, I just wrote them down as I had them.
All right. How about
Dangnabbit, every time.
disposable friends?
Disposable friends?
I'm trying to hit the heaviest topic here.
Why?
Because.
This is my most minty. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna screw this up. Watch
You got
me.
it. You got it.
Nope. I'm gonna push myself off this edge and fall to the very bottom again. It's kind of basically just going back to that idea of kind of the phoenixing that I do, where essentially I just have friends that I will just I will push them out of my life because I go through this cycle where I become ultra toxic and horrible, and I just get rid of friends left and right. And the only friends that I really consistently keep around are those who can tolerate it, essentially. Like that will come back from that breaking of the relationship, because a lot of people don't, and I don't get to the point of the relationship where it's worth doing that, right? Like I make the Nash. Have you heard of the term Nash equilibrium? It's a game theory term, not like the YouTube channel, but like the actual study of science and psychology and mathematics.
Okay.
It's a combination of all of those things, where essentially it is when two players play a game for an incentive, right? Okay. And essentially a Nash equilibrium is when both players are playing optimally, where it benefits both of them the best, like they're both playing as best as they could statistically play, right? What is this?
As you are now.
I am playing optimally.
This is pretty Nash, dude.
That's the funniest thing you've said all week. Good job.
Thanks. You've seen me once in the past 2 months.
Exactly. We saw each other at the flipping concert. You
Barely.
dungus. Yeah, I was outside half the time.
Yeah. I was trying to get to know those new people. It was quite the night.
Oh yeah. I'm still excited about Tuesdays.
Yeah, I want to talk about the concert too, if that's cool.
Oh yeah. But first of all, what the heck?
Eventually.
Disposable friends. Essentially, the fact that I
Throw 'em away.
essentially the fact that I get rid of friends so often, but the fact that I occasionally go through where I believe to be where I am kind of right now, where I'm in my best state, where I'm really good at making friends and just being social and, you know, a good person better in general, right? I'm in my self-improvement stage. And I do my best to kind of not let it go to my head.
I think when we met, you were in a similar state.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I make all of my closest friends when I'm in this state, right? And that's kind of the only time when I make close friends is because I'm really good at making that deeper emotional connection that lasts through those breakdowns.
Because, I mean, whenever, like, the second week of us hanging out, you're like, hey, dude, I just want to let you know. That's really
I hate this slide. It's going to be the bane of my existence.
You're like, hey, man, just to let you know, you're going to hate me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, doubt.
Right, exactly.
And then
here's the thing. When I'm in my best state, I care about other people enough to warn them about the oncoming horribleness that is inevitable.
Yeah.
Right? And I talk to people and they're like, no, it's not inevitable. Like, you don't know the fact that you're just going to be in this cycle of being a bad person. Like,
and I mean, like, I didn't want to, like, say anything, you know, about it in the time, but it's like, oh, I totally understand.
You
what
understand.
You meant, because, like, I've had similar instances where I'm just like, yeah, I drive people away, man, like,
right.
And sometimes it's on purpose.
Of course.
And I just need to take a minute for myself and figure out
I think I
what
do
I'm
the same
doing.
thing because I can't push people away. I can't like get people out of my life. I have to make them get me out of their life, essentially.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in a bad place, I'm very desperate to talk to people,
you're
and I'm very
attention-seeking.
exactly. I'm very, you know, not a good person to be around, and so I do my best. I'm done.
All right, Tetris. Can we get a round of applause for? It was a good attempt. You made it farther than I ever would.
I've never come so close to having a heart attack.
Your left
I
arm
knew
numb
it was
yet?
gonna
I
happen.
feel that arm.
Have you ever like dropped a glass thing and then caught it at the last second?
Yeah, actually, funny story. I was in my basement. I was gonna go get some meat out of the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to music on the at the time family iPad,
Mm-hmm.
and I had it on the other freezer, and my headphones got caught on something, and I caught it as it fell on the floor,
Right.
and so it shattered already,
Mm.
and the screen was broken, and I'm just there like, I caught it. Didn't do anything. So I had to go up and be like, hey, just to let you know, this thing we have, broken. It was the most difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Good old iPad 2.
Rip iPad 2.
Rip iPad 2.
Ah, that just about gave me an aneurysm. Okay, 1 second. Let me set this up. That's not it.
Can we streaming ourselves?
We can, but I don't think we should. Also, we have the Twitch chat here. Did you
Oh.
see that they updated this?
I've never used much Twitch, so.
But like you can see that
Mhm.
there's 2 people
Hmm?
in my chat, and I don't know why. They've always been there, which
Hmm.
means that they aren't real people.
Robots.
I love robots.
Fake people.
Ah, those darn fake people. Okay, we can actually take turns on this one.
Probably.
So I'm gonna.
I'm not amazing at Tetris.
No, you're horrible, but
Mhm.
it's fun to watch.
I like Puyo.
You struggle anyway. I know you do. I'll face off against you in Puyo
Yeah.
if you want. Also, all of my scores are gone.
Puzzle Fighter, baby.
I had 700,000 as my high score,
That's a lot.
and now it's gone.
Let's get it back.
Anywho, I'm just gonna play some Tetris casually. What were we talking about?
Disposable friends and how
This-
you go through a cycle.
Right, I go through a cycle and I just get rid of people. The weaklings. But honestly, that's kind of how it, like, people who are smart enough to understand that I'm not a
Yeah.
good person to be around, right? And generally there are 2 types of people that I keep in my life,
There are 2 types of people.
which are people who tolerate it
Mm.
and people who have to tolerate it because we are kind of in the same circles and whatnot, and like my church friends, like
Mm.
we all tolerate each other because of the fact that we have to be around each other, and
Yeah, you all share the same experience regardless of your voice in it or not.
right. But I think we've still grown together, like on when I'm in my good part of the cycle, essentially I get along really well with some of those people like Christo and Tristan.
Mm.
But when I'm not, it's
Definitely days where it's
right. They I think they're smart enough to know how to deal with me by not dealing with me, essentially. And oh my gosh, okay, that's fine. Anywho, but yeah, I think it's just a horrible cycle that I don't know how to do anything about it. It's just
it's natural.
it's what it is. It's what I get for simultaneously being. Yeah, okay, here's a really difficult topic that I wanted to try to cover, is what makes a good person or a bad person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, how do I define whether or not I am a good person for trying to do what I'm trying to do,
Yeah.
being self-aware with what I'm doing?
I was writing a song about this recently.
Interesting.
Carry on. Sorry to interrupt. Kind of stop there. But continue with what you were saying.
But like, I ask the question to myself all the time: it's better to be? It's less horrible. It makes you a less horrible person if you are not aware that you're doing wrong,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, because it's just you don't know any better, essentially. But
That's a crazy topic because
Exactly.
I've been doing like research about some criminal cases where it's people that like genuinely have no clue.
Exactly. Like a good example would be what's the one play about the big guy that's really stupid but he likes the rabbits, and then at the end.
Sorry. I have no clue.
No, it's a really popular play.
I'm not super aware of plays.
Look up Tell Me About the Rabbits,
Right now.
George.
Right now.
Domination, Linny. Who's Linny? From Of Mice and Men. Thank you.
Of Mice
Flippin'.
and Men.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's-
the one based on the book?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So essentially,
John Steinbeck.
there's this guy who. Thank you. Flippin'. You came in at the perfect time.
Whoever this person is.
Flippin' irony kills. Thank you very much. Essentially. I'm so distracted by that person now.
Who is that person?
I don't know. Thank you for coming in. Anywho, just about that question of, is it better to be aware of your evil, or is it like not better for you, obviously, but is it like, does it make you a worse person to be aware of your evilness and still commit it, or is it better to be oblivious? Right, like the guy that kills the rabbit in Mice of Men, right? Like, flippin' got to me again. I'm so easily distracted. Anyway, like I don't think the problem is I feel like I'm playing it optimally because I can't choose to be oblivious. So I choose to try to be more aware of it so I can counteract it when I don't have control over it. Right? Like it's kind of that question of, yes, it would be better if I was a horrible person and wasn't aware of it, but since I am aware of it,
you should be able to understand.
It's better to understand it. And, well, that wasn't even the question that I was trying to answer. It was, do I act like I am oblivious to it? Because that will make me seem like a better person. Like, if you have someone who's doing wrong but doesn't know that they're doing wrong, you treat them with more kind of what's the word? Freedom in that situation. Like, oh, they don't know any better. They're just trying their best.
Well,
all of those things.
A good example for what you're saying is there's been like serial killer cases where people with mental disorders
right, exactly,
have no clue.
Exactly,
And
that's
so
what
whenever
I'm talking about.
They do a thing. How do you try someone that doesn't comprehend
the wrongs
the
of their
value
actions,
of human life, or what is right and wrong to do?
Exactly. That's my point. Is I've for so long fought the basically the I've played stupid essentially.
We have a comment.
Read it to me.
I think if someone is aware they are being a bad person, that can set themselves up. I can't read. That can set them up to have a redemption character arc.
But that's the thing, is I struggle with having self-control. I understand that it sets you up for a redemption character arc, but I always fall back into the same hole of doing the wrong again, because I basically have two different sides of my personality that...
Yeah, this Tetris is stressing me out. Sorry.
It's very bad. Anyway.
Your holes.
I'm quite aware. There's only so much I can do about the holes. But anywho, like,
It's like a Hallmark movie.
If I can't control the fact that I am a bad person, then it's better that I am aware to other people, right? That's the main thing that I'm struggling with, is if I play stupid and I treat it like I don't, which is the optimal solution for me personally, that I act like I don't know any better, that I'm doing these things, then it's better for me, but it's wrong morally.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, if I'm not taking responsibility for my actions. Yeah.
And brain holes just click.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens. Flipping brain holes. But anyway, flipping irony. My point is that I can't really. I would rather act aware. I understand that it's worse and it puts me in a worse light, and that's why I struggle with it. But I think to be a better person, I need to act more aware of it and take responsibility for the fact that I do understand my actions and the wrongness of them, and you know, I can't play it off for sympathy or whatever it is, because it's my own. It's really hard to define if it's my own fault, essentially, because I can't really control it that well, but it's still my own actions, essentially. I still have to.
I think you're a better person for taking responsibility for the wrong you've done than just being like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Obviously, it makes me a better person, but it still puts me in a worse light, and it criminalizes myself. Essentially, it doesn't put me in that moral gray area of the serial killers that you were talking about, right? Like, I can plead, what's it called? like plead insanity. Essentially, that's what that is, and it's better for me not to when I'm in my good thinking brain, essentially.
Good boy mode.
Right, exactly. And I think also this podcast is kind of like, if I can keep up with it, I think it will continually keep me in a better state of that good boy mode, essentially.
It's a moral alibi.
Kind of like it just sticks me into that mode. Can you see what he said?
Have you seen the show Mindhunter? No, actually, it's on my list, and I'd love to get into it, but I'm waiting to watch it with my girlfriend.
I see how it is. Tell us what Mindhunter is about. Either one of you.
Well, I know it talks about a lot that serial killers, and a primary character would be Charles Manson, if my knowledge is correct. I don't know what they're laughing about. I don't know how big the delay is here.
I think it's about 10 seconds.
Yeah?
That's my guess. You could just go onto Discord and watch the stream and see how far it is behind for you.
That's okay. But yeah, no, it's a show about
Stop laughing at me.
policemen and serial killers, and I've tried to not know anything about it so we can watch it blind. But I'm pretty sure Charles Manson is a primary character, or
Who
just a
is
character.
Charles Manson again? Is he the Beach Boys guy?
Well, yeah, he was friends with Dennis Wilson.
I thought that was that was what the Tarantino movie was
Yeah,
about.
yeah. No.
So they're both about that.
It's about the real
Besides
life guys that created the process of getting into the mind of serial killers. So it's a psychological thriller, sounds like, which is generally one of the best serial killer films would be Robert Downey Jr. in The Zodiac Killer, or just Zodiac.
Really?
And it's the most like true to
He agrees
case.
with you.
Okay, yeah, it's a true to case serial killer film where they get into
About Ted Cruz.
yeah,
I know my memes. Dang it.
sure. Enter your initials.
What are my initials?
Loeb.
Lob. That's obviously Lob.
Lob. Sure.
Okay, you
I
take
totally read it as Loeb.
you take your turn for it
Okay.
with the mouse.
Watch me suck. Oh, why'd it give me
Yeah,
this
it's cool.
piece first? Or that piece first?
Why would you put it over there? You can easily
It's
put
okay.
something
It's
underneath
okay.
it.
It's
You
okay.
could have put that
It's
there.
okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about my methods. Don't you have a sweet little
There
kid
you
in your
go.
heart, darling?
There you go. Put it there so you can put something underneath it.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah. I'm not.
Yeah,
used
because
to-
it's so
I'm not-
easy to put stuff underneath it.
Yeah.
That was a bad move. Anyway,
Don't talk about my bad moves.
so my entire point in saying all of
I'm a
that
good
is
dancer.
it's better for me to take responsibility for my actions and plead guilty, essentially, for all of my crimes against my friends and whatnot, essentially. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
I know what you mean.
right? Like I have the ability to play dumb, and I have played dumb, and I all of those different things, and it's really easy to do for me because I do it so much, essentially, but it's not the right thing to do, and so therefore when I am in my better mind, then I do that, essentially, right? Like I try to take responsibility for my actions, and therefore it makes me a more trustworthy person, essentially, and then I gain people's trust, and then I agree, right? But
What do you say? Read it to me.
finding the balance between when you should play dumb and when you shouldn't is good. Although I don't necessarily believe that there are some good times to play dumb, but it's kind of limited. It not in the overall sense of
I mean, you can only
your
do so
actions.
much.
right? Like, I think whenever I'm playing dumb about my own actions is I'm obviously trying to just save my own skin, essentially. I'm doing the morally wrong thing.
It's for
Because-
you.
Right. That's the best spot. You can
There.
Yeah.
Really?
kind of.
Oh, high stress.
You should really fill this hole and
I
like
know.
get rid of these blocks.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware.
You have so many holes, Lauren. Anyway,
Yeah, I've got one big hole.
that's fair. That's definitely true. He says sometimes the only person you're lying to is yourself. Gotta have that self-awareness. Exactly. Right. That's kind of what I'm. What?
This is a good run. This is a good run.
Mess. Anywho, Yeah, I totally agree, and that's why I've basically this is my Hamilton Reynolds pamphlet essentially. This is
Wanna try
me.
again?
Yeah, go for it. Let me make my Hamilton references, man. I'm a. Why? You gotta fill that hole
I'm
as
filling
soon
the
as
hole.
possible.
I'm filling the hole. Don't you worry. I'm filling that hole.
Set up for your Tetrises.
It's okay. Don't worry. I'm setting up.
Why?
I'm setting up.
Why you make two-sided holes? They're the worst.
It's an accident. Don't worry.
You could use the light blue piece to fill the hole,
It's okay.
and then you have
Don't
another
worry.
hole.
Don't worry.
Anyway, I don't know what you're sheeshing.
Don't worry.
This is my nightmare. Essentially, when I'm in my better mindset, my morally good mindset, just the score. Oh yeah, the 6,000. Oh, by the way, I need to change the thing that says Tetris when you're done
Okay.
and not getting over it. Okay, gotcha.
Do we have a fake fan in our midst? Did they only come here for getting over it?
Yeah, they aren't here for us. Like they know who we are. Anywho, by the way, check out my YouTube channel. It has nothing to do with this. I'm joking. Don't.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Not the point. Anywho.
Oh no.
This is impossible. Okay. This was supposed to
This
help me
isn't.
think. It's just giving me all the anxiety.
I'm training you.
Anywho, what I was trying to say is basically I need to get into my better mental state and take responsibility for my actions, and I'm trying to do that. And that will ultimately, I think it will lose me some of my friends who have stuck with me because I couldn't do better, essentially, right? And I'm basically telling them, no, you were wrong, I could do better, right? I'm taking responsibility for something I might even not be able to take responsibility for, right? I don't know if I have control over those actions. Well, no, of course. Like, that happens naturally, but I mean, like, it is good for them. It is the logical choice for them to make to get rid of me as a friend because I have been a bad friend, right? I have made it the Nash equilibrium for them to get rid of me from their life, right? Because I've not been a good person, right?
Mm.
And so, also you're doing better.
Thank you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
And yeah, it's not about losing friends. It's about losing friends that I should have easily been able to keep because they are good people and they are, all of these different things. Like I've told myself multiple times that I can't be friends with good people because I will ultimately betray their trust, right? And that's kind of a weird thing to realize, but it seems pretty true sometimes. And I don't know. It's a weird cycle that I go through.
I think it's happened a few times, and I've seen it come and go.
Oh right, yeah. You've
I've
watched the cycle happen.
I've seen a lot of people come and go.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like that's what I meant by the disposable friends. Why do you feel like you've betrayed their trust? How do I explain this?
Sneaky Pete. I don't know, man. That's a really that's a heavy topic.
It's not
Very
as simple as
personal.
like revealing their secrets or like blackmailing them or something. Like it's more just the fact that I kind of use them for my own benefit, I guess I would say. And like I'm just a bad person to them, right? And I
did better.
You did over twice as better. It was 3 times as better. Good on you.
Do you want to go or should I go?
You can go ahead.
Are you sure?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm still braining.
Yeah, go on this whole thing.
Yeah, but it's what again?
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
But anywho, yeah, it's really hard to kind of describe how I betray people's trust. And I was actually thinking about that recently. And I have. The first question on my 2 lists is, should I be trusted? Right? Because for me, it's a really hard question to answer. Because I don't, like I don't reveal secrets. Like I'm pretty good with secrets, I would say, and like I can be trusted in that sense, but I don't think when I'm in that worst state, my judgment should be trusted. You should have filled that hole.
I know.
Then you would have more room to work with.
It's okay.
Anywho, now you created another.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't you worry your sweet little heart.
Essentially, I have taken advantage of people in the past, and I've kind of betrayed their trust in that sense, like that they should trust me with my choices. Right? I've made bad decisions, and I've used my previously good rationalization, like I kind of can now, to basically use that to my advantage. I'm using my good reasoning as a selling point for my bad reasoning, right? And that's not really a
it's not a reliable thing.
Exactly, and that's what makes. No, it's intentional bad choices. It is manipulative, like I am using you, bad choices.
How do you say
it's
I'm
not like a
scum
mistake
without saying I'm scum?
Right, exactly. Like it's
This is all about self-betterment and realizing what's wrong with you. That's what
right.
we're here for.
I guess a good example would be like, hey, I have this snake oil that I'm gonna sell you on Facebook. Like, if I was a really trustworthy person normally, and then I sold them this product that did nothing, that would betray their trust, right? It's not the more direct way of doing it, kind of like spilling their secrets that they trusted you with, but it's more, just the way that they trust my choices. As long as you're not getting into pyramid schemes.
Yeah,
no, trust me, there's plenty of other horrible things that I can do without getting into it.
I'd like to get into one eventually. I think that'd be fun.
I think it's an interesting concept, definitely. But
I know a guy in one.
Yeah,
it's weird to watch.
Did she contact you?
I don't know. I don't think she has ever.
She like texted me right after they graduated. I was like, hey, we have knives.
I've got a business opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's okay. Pyramid schemes are truly fascinating to me.
I think they're genius.
They are, right? Like, I think it could potentially work as a normal business concept, but it's so easy to exploit.
And it's like a cult.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Right? And I think that's the reason why it's so easy for people to get into them, is because it makes sense as a normal business idea.
Like, they have good personalities to represent them.
Exactly,
and
right?
That's the craziest part of it.
It is like an ant colony. I agree.
Woody Allen's ants.
No. Don't put that. Now you need a light blue piece.
It's okay. Don't you worry about a thing, honey.
You can hold pieces by hitting right click.
I know. I forget.
You could have held that. Anyway, that wasn't my point in the slightest. Essentially, I betray people's trust in that sense. That they trust my judgment because when I'm in a morally good place,
you seem trustworthy.
I have really good judgment, right? I'm just gonna say it because I've said plenty of bad things about myself. Okay, I have really good judgment most of the time.
I'd say you're pretty.
But the problem is
pretty centered sometimes.
Exactly. But when I'm when I change to chaotic evil on my alignment chart, whatever you want to call it, like
when the moon's in a weird phase.
It could be aligned with the moon. I don't flip and know at this point. But my point is that my judgment is best for me. I know the best way to take advantage of people because I have that judgment. Right? It's not morally good judgment, but it is personally beneficial best judgment. Right? It doesn't change the fact that I have good judgment. It's just good judgment for me. And at the cost of my friends. Right?
I've known you long enough to take certain aspects of take certain aspects of your help per se.
Right.
Take it more lightly, and just be like, all right, well, yeah, Lauren has a good valid reason here.
Sure.
But there's a lot more at stakes here than just like face level stuff. So I'll take his information and do something with it and apply it.
Sure. And I don't expect anyone as my morally good self right here, right now,
Hi.
my better self.
Yeah.
Nobody should take my advice blindly.
No.
I try to say things that make sense so that they will agree with me that my choice makes sense and it is good, right? Because if you take it blindly, I become aware of this, that I can easily manipulate people, right? When people take my advice
Which
blindly,
is so bad.
exactly, it's so easy for people to blindly take my advice if they stop thinking about it, which is how I easily betray trust. That if you put it, okay, that
It's
works.
okay. Don't worry. Don't worry.
It's my nature.
Don't bless
Um,
Don't. It's okay.
It just gets under my skin. I keep pointing at the screen. But anyway, you do it intentionally, don't you?
Sometimes.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where the cycle starts, is when people start to take my advice blindly. Because as soon as I do that, my manipulative side says, hey, you can use this to your advantage.
I can tell people. I can. You're an influencer. You're the pyramid scheme.
I am the pyramid scheme. Really. Like, that's the main problem. But yeah, it's really easy for me to suddenly get into that place where I see a weakness. I see an opportunity. I am an opportunist. Okay? That is something that is consistent with my character and my personality. I am an opportunist. And that can be for good or for bad. But when I am an opportunist, when I see someone who I can take advantage of, sometimes I take advantage of it. And that's my primary problem. Is I see the potential of the benefit and I take it. Right? And that's when I fall into that hole of being a worse person. And that's the main thing that I'm fighting with. And that's the reason why I say things like, hey, I'm a bad person, but I have to be aware of it or else I'll fall into this hole. Right? Like,
you have to make yourself aware, which is what you're saying.
I have to make other people aware.
Yeah.
I've always been aware of this. But like, I have to recognize it consciously, and I have to warn other people of my horribleness.
I'm a snake.
I'm a slippery snake.
You ever seen that movie How to Eat Fried Worms?
Switch out and then you
Yeah. I tried to. I don't know how to switch.
right click. It's real easy. But anywho, yeah, and it's, I don't know. It's super easy to get into that place where I can manipulate people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really wish I didn't. And I really wish I could just, be the better person that helps people out. Because the reason I get into those positions is I'm just trying to help them out, right? I want to give people advice.
A genuine place.
Exactly. That's my primary problem, is it comes from a genuine place, and people understand that it comes from a genuine place, and therefore they trust me. And it becomes easy for them to, I become so trustworthy that they don't have to filter everything that I say, right? Here's where the main problem comes in. It is rational. People are always going to do what they want to in the end.
That's true.
But here's the problem. I am so consistent with my judgment. I'm quite consistent with my judgment. Like, not perfect, obviously, but like, I can give enough good advice and good decisions to other people that they trust me to the point where they stop completely like rationalizing it, right? They're just like, Lawrence knows how to do this. It's gonna be great. I'm just gonna trust him, essentially, right? And then my opportunist brain takes advantage of that. Like when you say you're gonna play damage in Overwatch, that I should heal. Yeah, exactly. Sure. That's kind of my point. Is like it's easy to do that, right? Like, I would say a good example is like if we met in a pub game and I am a really good healer and I'm like, hey, let's go play competitive and we'll do great together because we did really great together as a healer, and then we get into the game and I play damage and you're stuck playing healer, and then we lose horribly because you trusted that I could do something really good, and I took advantage of that to my own benefit, essentially. And that's kind of what I struggle with. So, at the end.
That's not where I wanted to put it.
Anyway.
This has not gone well for me. Welcome to I don't know how to play Tetris.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting.
It's perplexing.
It really is. I don't know how to deal with it. Right? That's why I have this you could have just swapped it out. That's why I have this podcast, is because I don't know how to deal with this problem, but I want to basically make it public information, right? It is smart for me. It is my Nash equilibrium to warn people of myself, you know? And to do that, I also just want to understand myself. I want to... Yes, it is a podcast. This is my second episode. Oh, yeah, I know. Literally no one watches it. I'm sorry.
We're just doing this for us. And by
essentially.
I mean solely him. I'm just a guest.
Yep.
This is a one-time deal.
This is a 3-time deal.
I have a wife and kids.
You're under contract.
Mm.
No, but yeah, essentially, this podcast serves multiple purposes. One being that I can kind of get my thoughts out and say stuff like this, so I don't keep thinking about it over and over and over again, because that's what I do.
It's a good way to get it off the chest.
Exactly.
Think about it.
Because I said this last episode, I am an obsessive person, and I can't not think about things. If there's something that's bothering me, it will keep bothering me. I don't think people are inherently good or bad. Yeah, that's the thing that I struggle with. And I think there are definitely people that are more good than bad.
Yeah, there's no sole good person.
Exactly. But I struggle with the fact that I lose control sometimes. I think people make choices that benefit themselves most of the time. It depends on the person, right? Listen, me and Mason both live in the Bible Belt.
Do we?
Yes.
Is Missouri considered the Bible Belt?
Yeah, it's
okay.
Like one of the main parts.
Oh yeah, more Midwest mentality.
Right, it's all Midwest mentality, which means, yeah, of course it depends on the person. But we both have grown up around mostly morally good people, right? Like, we are surrounded by them. And therefore, it's a lot harsher.
These people obsessed with it.
Exactly, right. Like, of course, a lot of it's for the sake of God and all of these different things, but it's still people trying to be morally good, right? They're fighting with their inherent nature that I believe that I'm struggling with so difficultly now. Exactly, right. People on the coast are a lot more selfish and all of those things.
East Coast people kind of suck sometimes.
Right, all of those things. But essentially, listen. Here's the weirdest part.
When have I not been listening? That's my first question. Sorry.
It's just what I say to, like, hype myself up.
I'm my own hype man.
I am, because you don't do it for me. Every time that I'm in my selfish mentality, I always think about moving to the coast. Yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna drop everything. I don't care about my friends or my family or any of these things, and I just want to start a new life, be able to easily manipulate people, get successful. It's what I'm good at, right? This is the mentality that I go through so many times. I've had many, many times. Blue piece on the end.
There?
This is the only piece that fits there.
Untrue. I will find another.
The light blue piece. Anyway. But yeah, like, that is a staple that I kind of know that I'm in my selfish mentality. But here's the thing. I don't care when I'm in my selfish mentality, because that's who I am in that moment, right? I accept that of myself, you know? Like, it's just who I am, and it doesn't bother me that I'm in a selfish mentality, because it's just me,
yeah.
right? And that's why it makes it so hard to deal with the blue piece, deal with those kind of things, right? Is I go through. I kind of had a bit of a mental breakdown on the last podcast because I realized how surreal it is to have memories of a completely opposite state of mind and a mindset and a way of processing information. Like the fact that me as a more selfless, like just helping for the sake of helping, and altruism, essentially, like having that state and then remembering a thought process where it's all about being out for yourself and taking advantage of people as much as possible to get as much as you can before they figure out the scheme. Right? To have the memory of a completely opposite mentality is surreal. And I kind of broke down over this because I don't know how to handle that information. That I have two opposite thought processes that just switch back and forth. Like, how do you deal with that? I don't know.
How do you go from being the most selfish to the most selfless?
Exactly. I don't know. It's weird, and it's just something I kind of have to live with. And people kind of talk about like, oh yeah, that's normal, or that's whatever. But I experience it to right. I experience it to such a weird amount that I'm quite positive that this is not a normal thing. And I have considered the fact that I might have multiple personalities. Like, I don't know if that's true or not. Like, I'm seriously considering it as a possibility. Why do you have your mouse so far down? It's really hard to see where you're placing.
Well, it's because it's not about the mouse.
It is. Because then you can...
I play this with a joystick, traditionally. Having a mouse is the
But when you're
thing.
placing blocks like this, it's a lot easier to see where you're placing. Because you can actually...
I think you're bonkers. Crap.
Because you can see where the mouse is, and then you can... Also, it actually affects the rotation, depending on how high your mouse is.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. I'm really...
I lost my train of thought.
I'm really having a hard time with this here.
You failed.
Alright.
But hey, you're dominating the scoreboard, though. Well, there are factors that make you feel like you're on the side of your personality or the other. Actually, there are certain things. Here's... I kind of explained this earlier. I'm not sure if you were here for this. But essentially...
The man's a Looney Tune.
I am a Looney Tune. But that's not really the point. Essentially, the fact that I am a... What's the term that I had earlier? The perpetual motion machine.
He's a shark.
Essentially, I go from... I am going from a good person to a bad person by being... I become a good person, and then I become aware of the fact that I am a good person, and my ego inflates, essentially, and I'm full of myself, essentially, because of the fact that I realize that I'm a good person. And so then I start to use it to my advantage because I'm an opportunist, right? That's part of my nature, is that I'm an opportunist. And so it is a constant back and forth, because as soon as I start to basically use it to its full potential, my opportunity with taking advantage of being a good person, I realize what an awful thing I have done, and I feel awful about it, and I kind of resort back to the fact that I am a horrible person, like I am now, right? I become aware of the fact that I've done all of these horrible things, and I feel bad about them, and I basically decide that it's better if I don't kind of let people trust me, essentially, because I'm not trustworthy. And then I become a better person for it, and I become a lot better at socializing and just being a good person in general, just for the sake of, not being a horrible person, essentially. And then I become aware of that, right? There are two major factors of this. Yes, it is a perpetual motion machine, I like to call it. But it is a cycle. And it is a cycle that I don't seem to be able to control because it takes two major factors in from my personality, which is I'm an opportunist and I am very self-aware. Right?
Almost problematically so.
Exactly. Right. It is problematic. That's basically my entire point, is the fact that I become so self-aware of the fact that I am being a good person or a bad person that it so heavily affects my ego, for better or for worse. And therefore it pushes it in the opposite direction, because the ego is a paradox in itself.
I think you should... We'll come back to that statement.
Okay.
Actually. That's another topic, I think.
Okay. But anywho, ego is a paradox, right? It is the opposite of what you think of yourself. If you think of yourself less, your ego is better. And it's so weird, right? The ego is the strangest thing to me. And I think it's definitely controllable to the point where you can have a proper ego that fits whoever you are. But for me, I have such a... Exactly. Right. Starve the ego, feed the soul. But my problem is that I can't do that very well because of the fact that I'm too self-aware of myself. Right? And once I become self-aware of the fact that I am becoming better at feeding my soul, then it feeds my ego.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like...
It's a paradox.
Well, it's like when like an easy example is musicians who are like, oh yeah, I just do what I love. And
exactly.
Once people constantly adore them for this thing that was just part of their everyday life, then they're like, oh, I'm the best there is. Buddy.
Exactly. And it's so easy to fall into that pit. I think I heard something kind of about how Kanye West started as this kind of very humble street guy, right?
Kanye West is an amazingly talented guy.
Sure.
No doubt.
But he still has the biggest ego.
Yeah.
Right, I think he's kind of a decent example of what you just mentioned. That is, also, smart idea is to always try to keep it as flat as possible.
I'm trying.
You aren't, though. You keep leaving. As soon as you make threes,
I know.
you have to have light blues.
I know.
That goes there. Because that's the only good place for it. Right, exactly. Yes, I'm worse at being emotionally self-aware, I think. I don't know. I think it's delayed. I basically have an observation part of my personality that is not active in the moment, but is constantly processing the information for later when I can, process it better.
You're not a very in the moment type person.
Exactly. Here's the problem, right? I agree that would definitely help me if I could act on my self-awareness in the moment. But the fact is that I go into such a personality. I have these characters, essentially,
You're a Looney Tune.
Right. Yeah, it's... I basically... I have two parts of my brain. I have the part of my brain that can socialize with people and are really good with people and can interact with people, and kind of my social self. It is my extrovert side. And it can speak really well, but it can't think really well. So essentially, the way that my brain solves this problem is that it will store all of the information that needs to be processed for a point later in time. I just like making towers. It's really helpful, of just red or green, just to get rid of them. Anyway, so my brain essentially stores that information that needs to be processed for later, and so it's constantly observing everything that's going on in my life. And I've had trouble with this before because it's a fine system for what I have, but recently, for example, here's the thing with me and Mason. Most of the time,
we hate each other.
That too, but basically he sticks me into the extremes of those two personality types. So whenever I'm around him on our own, I'm extremely rational for the most part. But whenever we're around other people together, I am extremely personable, right? We kind of have this energy between this. Just don't let them keep you up at night. Listen, buddy, I've
that's easier said than done. For this
really
boy.
like I've been trying. Trust me. Right, exactly. I try to process them daily. Here's the problem with that. I generally do, because I generally have alone time that I can deal with it, right? Like, I can have that time where I can just process the information that I had throughout the day. Even if I was around people all day, I still come home to an empty bed, right? I'm able to sit and think and process and all of these different things. And I have a very secluded job, right? I have a lot of time at my job to just think about these things, right? This is where I wrote down the list, because I'm able to think out these problems like I've been trying to do in the podcast. And there's a major flaw in this problem, because I am basically forced into one of these personalities when I'm around Mason. It basically just makes them stronger.
I bring out the worst in him.
You bring out the best and the worst in me, essentially. You bring out the extremes in me. But the problem with that is when I'm around people, it sticks me into the acting and not thinking brain side, right? It puts all of my energy into externalizing and not internalizing, right? Because those are the two sides that I have, right? I can either act or think. It's kind of one of the two.
There's no in between.
Right, exactly. And so essentially, I went with Mason to a trip in Chicago, and we were both around people the entire time, which means I was constantly in my act, don't think personality, you know? And I never really had time to process and plus, I was dealing with a lot of emotional stress from dealing with trying to remain friends with my ex, essentially, because that was all going on at the time. And the problem was, that was a lot of information to process through. And what was so bad about it is that I couldn't, because I was in that personality state. And so I essentially had a breakdown on one of the days because I became aware of this, and I kind of tried to force myself into
It's going too fast.
Still fast.
This is Sonic speed. That's my best score, though.
That's
I
not
was
too
doing
bad.
really good.
But anyhow,
Not to deter.
um,
It was hard to watch too, because you'd be up at night having these conversations and you're like trying to rationalize things, and it's like
Right.
it has you in physical
right. I was
discomfort.
I was stuck in the act, don't think. Yeah, it was good for him.
For who?
For you.
Oh, thank you. I usually just play this at the arcade, and that's about it.
Blue piece goes there.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
He's giving me anxiety.
Don't worry about it.
Anywho.
Thing, honey.
That's not really the point. My point is that I was in the acting, not thinking side of my brain, because that's what I am when I'm around Mason with other people, right? He brings out the extrovert in me and the introvert.
I'm the best in you. I'm the worst in you. Diabetic to the first degree. let me get my Tyler the Creator quotes in there.
Please don't. Anywho, blue piece. Okay, that works. But anywho, I was unable to think about all of these things that I needed to process for about a week, right? I was stuck in the extrovert act, don't think side for a week, and that was really bad for me. And it kind of came to me at the worst time, and my mom was really mad at me because
Good old family trip.
right, yeah.
Reconnecting with your family.
I kind of wasn't. I was supposed to be socializing with I think it's like a cousin of my dad's that we were seeing, and
Yeah,
I kind of just
interesting
I
thing.
forced myself into silence so that I could think and not act, right? Because my energy is either going to go into thinking or acting.
Also, you look like you're gonna Ralph the entire time.
Right, Mason was there, so he got to see the whole thing from an external perspective. You keep making. I used to have this problem where you just make towers where you need one by ones, and it's just the worst. It's really hard to fight that instinct, because once you get into the Tetris, fill the hole. It's your primary issue.
I know. It's okay.
Switch it. Anywho, so yeah, I basically forced myself into my thinking brain, just so I could process the information and just so I could go back to normal. Right? And I think that really helped me because I was fighting my extremely strong urge. No, listen, I was out
I'm
loud.
listening.
You stop saying that. It's a thing I say to myself. Anyway, that I'm saying this is an important bit. Pay attention.
I am.
Not you. Everyone at home. That's you, irony.
Well, it sucks.
This is why you don't keep your mouse so low. Because you can't see where you're going.
I recovered. Don't worry.
Because when they spin, they aren't quite in the same place. So when you can keep it consistent with the mouse, then you know how it's going to rotate. You know? Anywho, pay attention. Essentially, I literally had to, I was saying under my breath, stop doing that thing. I was instinctively like playing with my hands or doing something, or like I wanted to say a stupid joke to you. Like I was out loud quietly to myself. I was taking my thinking brain and telling my acting brain, stop that. I was basically using my mental water bottle to spray down the instinctive side of me to stop acting so I can like think. And it was such a weird experience to, you know, do that essentially. And you can plan ahead.
I never look.
That's cheating. That's screen peeking.
Screen sheets.
No, don't do it.
What are you doing? I want to.
Save it. You could.
It's okay. I made a horrible mistake. Can I just automatically quit this one?
Yes. Quit. Start at 10.
Come back.
Start at. Oh.
Here we go.
So anyway, yeah, I had to verbally smack myself every time I was about to act, so I wouldn't do anything, so I could think, right? And I had to do that over and over and over again. I did that for about an hour, or a few hours maybe, where I was just very minimal in all of my actions. And here's the thing. When I force myself into that place where I'm not acting instinctively, I actually have good things to say, right? Because when I'm in my acting mode, I don't really filter what I say that much, and I don't put any quality to what I say, right? Because when I'm in my thinking brain, even when I'm socializing, I generally like I can say good, interesting, funny things, right? But when I'm in my acting mode, all of that goes out the window.
Here?
Yeah. So you don't have it anymore.
I'm a problem child.
You really are. Use the other red.
The other red there?
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Fill it up.
Mm.
Anyways, yeah, and like I think I came off a lot better to the ant person because when I did listen, yeah, I understand. The cousin of my dad,
the ant person.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know. That was just a funny phrase. I'm thinking about
listen,
Woody Allen again.
I was thinking about like, dude, my favorite Marvel character is Ant Person.
Ant person. Someone told me recently
Darn
their
ant
favorite
people.
Marvel movie was Ant-Man, and that was a sad day.
He uses Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Really?
Yeah. Which I like it, but it's definitely not the best one. Listen, it has one of my favorite visual effects in it.
My bad. Double click.
You're progressing. Here, let me do a quick run. But anyway, what was I saying?
You were talking about
ant people. Yes.
Yeah,
Essentially, I don't think she's actually. No, she's like my cousin once removed, which is like an aunt for a sibling.
I know how
yeah.
families work.
For the people who don't know, for the people who aren't brilliant like Mason, essentially, Like, I think I can come off a lot better because what I do say has a reason for saying it, right? I filter my speech so much because I'm thinking about what I'm doing, you know? Like, and therefore I think I go into my thinking brain more because it's what I need. Let me try to go through this thought process real quick. Where essentially, when I start to panic and I start to think, hey, I really need to become a better person. That is my thinking brain and my needing brain. When I go into my acting brain, it is my wanting brain. Dagnabbit. And essentially, what that kind of means is that when I need to filter my speech, it isn't a bunch of unnecessary crap that's just coming through my mouth as I think it. Like I can kind of do that here. When I'm talking on this podcast, I can kind of combine my instinctual nature to say what I think, to combine it with my rational brain, right? And it's kind of a handy little trick that is hopefully helpful for me. But anywho, like I think I'm a more funny person, and I'm a more genuine, interesting person when I can do that, when I can filter my speech to the point where I only say the things that I deem good enough to say, right? Because then I think better, and I'm actually thinking about the best things that I could say instead of just not trying, right? I think you've seen probably quite a bit of both, where I just kind of say whatever, and it's just
there are
trash most of the time, right?
There are days where we'll be out doing stuff and talking.
It's just
with
the
people,
worst garbage.
and you'll say a thing. I'm just like, did you even like think that one through in your brain before you said that? Like,
no, right.
God
My
knows,
point is I don't.
Like, sure, a lot of my things come from just like I'll say stuff.
Sure,
because I
but
don't
you
think
still
about it.
process it.
But like I'm not saying I'm a funny person by any means, but like I care less about what I say because my brain's dead.
Right.
And I don't have to like.
No, but I think you are a funny person
about
though.
it, you know.
As much as you have your I'm such a humble person.
I gotta keep myself in check, buddy, just like you are by doing this podcast.
Heck yeah, totally not all about me. This podcast.
I'm a humble guy. I keep myself in check. I have a podcast where I talk
I'm so
about
humble.
myself. I'm humble, yo.
It's like the Lonely Island song.
Oh yeah.
I still haven't seen that movie.
Which one?
The pop star one.
No. Hot Rod is good.
Oh, it is.
Hot Rod's one of the best.
No, but it's a song with Adam Levine in it.
Yeah.
But anywho, that wasn't really my point.
Turn.
Yeah, essentially, I just say
Yeah, I mean,
whatever garbage comes to my mind.
Yeah, I think it's good for anyone.
It really
Hot
is.
Rod is unreal, man.
It's one of those legendary movies like Napoleon Dynamite, which it's just like
lightning in a
screws
bottle.
with you. It really is.
Oh.
It's so strange, but it's great.
But yeah, no, like it's good to have a filter on what you say for anything. In
Exactly,
life.
right.
If you're talking with children, I've learned as a teacher.
Here's the thing.
I need to like catch myself before I
totally.
say something.
Here's the thing. When I'm around children, I'm really good at that because I understand that I need to do that. And here's the thing. I realize
just treat everyone like babies. That's what I do.
Sometimes I kind of have to. But essentially, I don't get to pick which mode I'm in. It's only a matter of, do I want it more or do I need it more, right? Those are the only two things that matter. So when I need to behave good around children more, that's where I am. I'm in my...
This person has a really good point.
Okay, go for it.
Kids are so genuine, though it's easier, which is an interesting... You filter yourself to children, even though they don't filter yourself to you, and then you generally don't tend to filter yourself to other people who just kind of are living through a filter, right? Where like you don't feel like you have to be.
I might polarize. I might do the opposite of what I'm around. It's quite possible.
Because everyone's putting on a front, essentially. Like there's no one person that isn't trying to just like act like a better version of themselves.
Of course.
Yeah, most people do live through a filter, which is super true. Yeah.
What did you do?
Nothing. But yeah, like children, it's interesting that we try to like present the best version of ourselves to influential people like that who could care less. which is always an interesting thing. Yeah, this person says they just keep their mouth shut when they don't have anything good to say.
Right,
Which
exactly.
Which is a fair point.
And when I'm in a better place, I do that too. But I don't stay in that better place because I want things more than I need things sometimes, and I become too self-aware of that I want something more than I need something, right? Like, that imbalance is kind of what pushes me back and forth as a person, and that's what I've been fighting with essentially. But it's a whole thing.
I wish I could whip out some of that Buddhist information on you, but I feel like I'd misquote it. Wow, that's a good score.
No, it wasn't.
But it look at mine in comparison.
It's a horrible score.
Ouch.
500 is the minimal for a good score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
500,000.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Chinese philosophy?
The Art of War. I think it's interesting.
That's
what do you mean?
Completely different. Just like the whole mindset between.
I'm obsessed with yin and yang.
Others. Yeah, I know you're obsessed with yin and yang.
Because that's what I'm going through.
True to you.
Yeah.
But like, taking that step and not living for the needs of you, but completely for the needs of others.
Right.
You know,
I mean, yeah. I mean, sometimes I'm in that mind state,
yeah.
right? Like, there's some times where I completely agree with it, and sometimes when I completely don't, right? That's my back and forth. What does he say?
Yeah, one of his best friends is Chinese, and his outlook on life is completely different. Essentially, I've met people from Vietnam and Taiwan, and we've had some friends from other countries. And one of my family members is from the UK, and their whole outlook on life is different. I mean, of course, there's different levels to it.
Well, of course.
The difference between a common person and a nun, you know,
Sure.
or a common man and a monk. So, like, I don't know.
You just gender swapped him. How dare you?
There's differences.
Anyway.
Wait, are monks?
Nuns are female monks. Change my mind.
That's not what I meant. But I was saying, like, there's extreme levels to it. And then, like, coming into religion, there's, like, living for others in a very general sense, too.
Right, exactly. And
like, that's been a big thing for me lately. Is I'm not saying I'm, like, super... I think it's a lot of information.
Yep.
I think the stresses of life are affecting people in America differently. Everyone has a certain level of anxiety.
Oh yeah, the amount of depression and anxiety going around in my generation is stupid. Like, it's ridiculous how many people are suffering from all of that, and part of it's social media. But
it's so easy to talk about.
Oh,
which is good, but also very bizarre.
It really is. Like,
because never in a time in history was it so easy to be like, hey,
here's my best self.
Yeah, because we're at a point in history where one person has the same amount of vocal power as an entire organization.
Right.
So,
or
like,
a king or whatever.
Like in this, with the Black Panther movement, it took an entire organization to get one point across.
Right.
Hey, we want to be treated as equals.
Sure.
But now, it can take literally one tweet, and people's careers are over, and that's the power of social media. Which is insane.
Super weird.
There's a musical group that I enjoy a lot called Were, and their career was ended.
They were.
Yeah, their career was ended in one day because whoever ran their social media said something that was like anti-trans, and so this amazing band was just shut down because of this one social media instance, and which is insane.
Yeah.
Very, very upsetting to people who are fans of the music, because this one person had the vocal power of the entire, essentially, LGBT community, which is
but here's
to think about.
Right. Yeah, it's super weird that there's that individual power, but there's some extent to the building of that power, essentially. Like, is it really that different from a king, essentially, where you have to gain that power,
Mhm.
right? Like, it's really hard for a normal person on Twitter to get that kind of notoriety.
Mhm.
But if it's someone like a famous music group,
Mhm.
then they already have that following, like a King or a whatever would have, right? So it's a little bit hard to gauge in that sense, but I totally understand what you're saying.
They're very independent, so yeah. But yeah, outrage culture is a real thing.
Oh, I love
says
cancel culture. It's the
Yeah.
best.
And how James Charles quickly revived.
Oh yeah,
Can we talk
I'm
about
impressed.
Pro Jared's revival?
With
Did you
his
watch?
what?
Did you watch his thing?
No.
He did a recent video, and he came out and was like, "Yo, so here's some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do with it what you will.
Yeah.
But these are some facts."
Oh boy.
And I genuinely enjoyed the whole video, and it made me feel like conflicted because it made me question my involvement. Because like, of course,
Right.
I watched Bro Jared way back. Everyone did.
Right.
For a brief period, right?
Mhm.
And then whenever I heard about all of the disputes and like, oh, children, that's freaky. You know, that's a weird thing to be like, oh, this person who I used to enjoy is probably a bad guy in a sense where he does
Right.
gross things. But then he comes out and displays this information that was so easily brushed away because of how fast everything moves.
Oh yeah,
that-
that's the weirdest thing about
that-
cancel culture is it's
yeah.
it's a
It's in and it's
mob judgment.
Yeah.
There's a better term for that, like mob justice, essentially, where it's not about what's right, it's about what the people think is right, and that's a really easy to kind of get out of hand and all of these different things, but it's still interesting. Like the fact that information moves so quickly that we don't have time to sort it out
Yeah.
properly. Here's the thing. That's the kind of thing that I was talking about with my own advantage taking, is that I am so good at doing that efficient. It's efficiency over the proper thing to do, right? Like, it just becomes efficient to believe what you hear from the most people
'Cause
and
it's
take
easy.
that as exactly. It's
Right.
efficient. It's the logical way to
It's-
move through life.
As they say, have you
Mhm.
heard of the term groupthink, which I'm pretty sure comes into that?
Reddit.
Well, nice.
No, yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. Like, that kind of mob mentality is super strange. Like, I think that Twitch chat as like a collective is super interesting because it takes the collective consciousness of 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 people and put it into one being, essentially. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I had a hard time wrapping my mind around. Exactly, yeah. It is the greatest ideas rising to the top, and I think that is super interesting. But it's easily broken. Like, I have always thought that Reddit is a great concept because it's of the way that it uses the best ideas and it brings them to the top and takes the worst ideas and brings them down to the bottom, right? But it's so easy to fall into exactly, right. It's so easily broken because it's so easy to just follow the mob, and then it's easily corrupted.
Yeah.
And-
It becomes disingenuine.
Exactly, and I really
Very
wish
fast.
it's it's a little bit like communism, where like it kind of makes sense in theory.
Hi, have you read Animal Farm?
Yeah, but like it's so easily broken down,
Yeah.
and all of these different things, and it anyway, I'm very distracted. I was going somewhere with that whole thought process.
I mean, it's just that whole idea of being able to.
Oh, right. That I am able to kind of take advantage of that. It's so easy to just go with what the mob thinks, or go with what the smartest person in the room thinks,
Yeah.
right?
Because they obviously know what's going on. If
Exactly.
They're labeled as the smartest person.
Or if they have
Or if they
previously
have
proven
that, yeah.
themselves to be the smartest person, like, of course that's easy to take advantage of. And
It's like Tom Cruise's acting career.
no,
Let me get my analogy straight.
okay, you do that.
He proved himself as a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
Then he was a bad actor.
Was he?
Oh yeah, he's awful.
Interesting.
Because he had a good streak and proved himself to be worth people's money. And then eventually, once he started getting more and more involved, people were like, "Oh yeah, he's just not the greatest actor."
But now he's like the most
But
popular
now,
name
now
ever.
he's one of the most popular names, and so people desire him to be involved in their films because it's good to have.
It's just the namesake, right?
Yeah.
It's just
he definitely does have good roles, but
yeah, and he does his
but
own stuff,
people
which is a
also-
great.
but people forget He's got a lot of horrible roles too.
Of course.
But like most actors are like that. So that's a whole nother bag of stuff there.
Yeah.
Bless
I can't
you,
see.
Beautiful blonde hair.
Crap.
I'm nose blind.
I'm nose blind. It's like sneezing while driving, but worse. Anyway.
It's like when you sneeze in your bag of Coke. I'm sorry.
This is on the podcast now.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, that's kind of the point that I was trying to make, and we were somewhere else before this. We got sidetracked with the group think and Pro Jared and all that.
Yeah. Power of influence.
Right, all of that.
Mm.
But no, we were somewhere else before that. We weren't talking about the power of influence necessarily.
No, we were kind of dancing around it.
Yeah, kind of, but still.
This feels like a natural conclusion to that point, I think.
Probably, but
We don't want to stress
we
it
can
too much.
we can move on.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we'll get back to whatever we were talking about before. Also, these pieces are placing automatically now. Like, there's no point in me clicking anymore.
That's scary.
Oh, it is.
How long have we been running for?
2 hours?
That's a long time.
That's true.
That's a big podcast.
145. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm really glad that Iron's sticking around and putting in his input, because I'm really enjoying it. Because normally I'm just talking to myself. So
Do you want
to
to give
have
us
two people to
a
talk to is nice.
topic to give us a topic, and we'll
give
talk
us a
about
topic.
It. Give us some
Like
community.
we have plenty of topics, but we can
have
talk
a whole
about those
list.
anytime. So I'm curious what you want to talk about. I like giving input. Please give us input.
Yeah, give it.
Unless you just want to talk about whatever we're talking about, which is also fine. But I would like to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
Let me think.
We've discussed bees.
Yep.
We could talk about global warming.
No, it doesn't exist. Honestly, I don't know anything about global warming.
No.
So, honestly, I don't know what to think about it.
I've tried doing a lot of research on it lately. It's very bizarre.
I just don't care that much.
Yeah, no. I mean, I do, because it's one of those topics that's, again, with the whole Bible Belt thing, it used to be a very weird topic. Yeah, and yeah, that's
Right.
that's
The
a
main
very
question
heavy
is-
thing. It's like
There's no question that's warming
No.
up. The question is,
no,
are humans creating it?
yeah, no.
Right.
It's obviously a cycle. Yeah, exactly.
That Antarctica used to be a
it-
jungle or whatever.
Yeah,
all
like
that.
how, what in the world? How there have been periods where it's been super hot. There have been periods where it's super cold. There's when Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein,
Mhm.
that was the year without a summer. It was winter never stopped,
Right.
and it destroyed a thing. So yeah, there are cycles with it, and then the big topic now is how much are we influencing it?
Right. I think
And
people
I
are taking a
think-
lot more responsibility for it
Yeah,
than they should.
And we definitely are influencing it.
Of course, yeah.
To like a really weird.
But cows are the
but-
biggest influence on global warming.
I don't think that was it was the methane gas produced by factories and cows in combination.
Right.
How-
But I thought that cows were more than like burning coal or something.
No,
Like
that's stupid. That was a weird argument.
I don't remember what it was.
No, there was that one woman who was like, cow farts are creating.
Was it just like
gas.
a joke answer? Or
No,
like
it
a
was something
crazy
she
person.
genuinely believes. Yeah, she is crazy.
Okay.
But
I just remember hearing
the
that.
topic at that is there's so many animals and so many factories that coincide with the animals that they
Mhm.
were saying that the animals are the problem, but the actual problem is the amount of factories to keep up with the amount of the animals.
Right.
So the question was, is it necessary to be producing as much as we are producing because it has
But
a
of course
fact-
not. But it's producer culture, so
Yeah,
it's the
it's-
optimal.
it's
method.
It's what we need kind of.
It's not what we need. It's what we want.
But yeah, no. Like we want to have the safety net of having more food than we actually should have.
Of
or
course, yeah.
need, which is, I think that's a very American thing.
Well, sure, but
but
like
we
it's,
also-
it's
but-
kind of spreading across the world.
Well, of course, because America feels the need to give to other countries in terms of like paying off a sort of debt, which is another topic.
Right.
But with the global warming thing, it's a very real issue. But I don't think it's what people think it is, and there's a lot of misinformation out there about it,
Sure.
which is the sad thing to watch because people in my
I
family.
love misinformation.
People in my family are like, global warming doesn't exist at all. The Earth isn't getting hotter. And it's like, okay, yeah, the Earth
You're
itself
getting hotter.
isn't getting
Ew.
hotter, but we're creating a climate which does affect things. to a scary level.
Right.
Like ice melting. What was that? 14 years beyond projected,
Right.
studies. Kind of a weird thing. So how much are we affecting that, and how much of that is natural, right? We don't know. But it's a fun topic to think about.
I agree.
Maybe I'm spreading misinformation
You
because I've
are.
only done so much research. But
Yeah. That makes sense. I believe you blindly.
I care about the planet because it takes care of me.
Does it?
Yeah.
Does it really?
I mean, I take care of myself, but
Exactly.
But
Nobody takes care of
the
you but
planet
you.
helps me. Yeah.
Also, do you see how I'm keeping everything generally flat?
Yes. I know how the game works. Do I play it properly?
No.
Easy answer. No.
What do you say?
He hasn't said anything.
He
Except
just
for,
did.
Oh, the temp of the oceans are definitely getting warmer too. Yeah, that's something I don't know about. Is the ocean. I mean, there's been so many. I remember when a lot of the oil spills were going on,
Oh yeah.
and that was a crazy thing to witness. And we still have effects from that.
Are we?
Yeah, there's still situations.
After those orange
That's
peas.
good. I mean, Dawn still has advertisements for cleaning up animals that have been affected by oil spills. I think a big part.
The
of
whole
what's-
thing with the turtles is the straws is.
I think that was
so
blown out of
sur-
proportion.
Oh, of course it was.
But
That's why
it's
it's so
hilarious.
funny to me. It's
Yeah.
like they banned straws.
Yeah.
Like, straws are not the enemy here. Like, calm
No,
down.
people are the issue. I think one thing I do know about the ocean, in terms of people polluting it, is garbage islands that exist.
Oh yeah.
And there's that one that's almost like
England.
the size of France, or something, just out there.
Crazy.
I don't know how true that is, but I've seen some pictures of some garbage islands, and it's
Like Ireland.
massive. Stop! I'm studying Ireland in college.
I'm from Ireland.
Yeah, there's one off the coast of California. There's multiple off the coast of China and India, and I think there's one off the coast of New York as well.
Interesting.
But because essentially, I think the mentality was like, oh, if we get rid of the trash, we don't have to deal with it, right?
I mean, that's kind of
So
true temporarily.
So yeah, then it came to a point where it's like, oh, hey, we're creating an issue.
So is the idea that they were just throwing trash in the ocean and collected, or that they've been taking it to this island, like Isle of Dogs
It's kind
style?
of like a landfill situation. The problem is the Earth can't keep up with the garbage production. Yeah, we're producing. Yeah.
We have so many disposable things.
Yeah, because American recycling is different than how it was going on in China, because there was no recycling. But now that they've created things where they are, we have more than we can handle.
Right.
And so we're at a build-up point where we kind of can't control how much we have, so we have to put it somewhere, right?
Of course.
It's like putting
Everything's disposable now.
putting uranium or atomic stuff in salt mines. How long until we run out of salt mines to put that in?
Right.
And then the burning of it. How much is that affecting atmosphere and creating like a greenhouse effect?
Exactly. That's always been the question. Like
Yeah.
how much of this is affected by humans?
Are we gonna make ourselves bigger by putting ourselves in a greenhouse? Is
When
that
are we
why
gonna-
people are taller than they used to be?
Yeah.
Freaking Finland, man. Got some tall people.
Do they? That's where they have the
Yeah.
worst greenhouse. It all makes sense.
Wait, what are you saying yes to?
Well, he's 10
There's a
seconds
lot of-
behind.
There's a lot of things to say yes about.
That's true. He's 10 seconds behind, so
I
he
know.
doesn't.
We'll give him time to process.
Just emotionally. There's a lot to handle.
Let's have a moment. Oh, okay,
That's fine.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Don't
But-
worry about it.
The Earth should be cared about, but we shouldn't.
Calm down.
It's a weird.
Help out, but don't freak
yeah.
out. That's my message. But generally, people don't help out if they're not freaking out.
They're taking a leave.
Oh no.
Should we take a recess? I need to get a drink.
Okay. We could just
Alright,
record a
let's go
new
to this
episode.
Yeah. You want to just do episode 3?
Yeah.
Completely new mindset. We'll pretend it's a different day.
Please. Let me finish this round, and then we're gonna take a break as well.
We could talk about the pursuit of happiness.
No, we're gonna talk about me.
It does involve you. We're gonna
Also,
talk
I just
about
realized
what
us talking
makes you
about our
happy.
plan to take a break and act like it's a new day is on this podcast.
It's fine.
We're done.
It's fine.
We fooled you. Also, we could. No, we shouldn't do Deltarune because it's pretty dialogue heavy and all that.
Deltarune.
Undertale sequel.
Oh yeah, no, that's not a very podcasty type thing,
Right.
unless it's about the game.
We also could try setting up the LAN
Yeah,
server.
we could. I haven't had a healthy Minecraft LAN party in a long time.
I don't know if I've ever actually had a real one.
Yeah,
I've
I used to have a friend over,
You've told me about this.
and we would just
We should-
set up, and we had like sheets in my room to separate us, and we'd play like Sky Challenge and stuff like that
Nice.
together.
Okay.
Those were events, man.
We're gonna be right back.
We're gonna take we're gonna take like a 20.
Yeah,
15?
something like that.
15,
And then
20
we're gonna
minute
be
break.
back and we're gonna record the next episode. And wait, I wanna this boy. I'm gonna add his dude. November 2016. Nice.
Who is this man?
I
Who's this
don't-
myth?
I don't know. I don't know who he is, but I'm gonna send him a friend request, and we're gonna be back later. So I'll
Thanks for joining
say-
us on episode 2 of the podcast.
wait. Let's finish it off at 2 hours. Yes, you. We're gonna be back in about 20 minutes. If you want to come back and join us, we've really enjoyed having you.
Take a little power nap.
Yeah, take a power nap. Whatever makes you happy. For all of you who are watching the podcast, here you go. There's this beautiful boy in our chat that we've just been talking to.
He's our little
He's our little minion friendo.
yeah.
And
It's like
yeah.
having a Furby.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll be back later, and please thank all the people for watching the podcast.
Hi. This was episode 2 of the Lauren podcast.
Get closer and whisper.
Thank you for tuning in.
Closer.
I hope you join us next time. Ciao.
Nice. See ya.